Hello everybody and welcome to this review of the Flight1 Citation Mustang. Yes, I know it's been a while, I apologize. I had a lot of other stuff to do, but we're back, and we're back with a whopper because this is, as you can probably tell from the title, a review for the Prepare 3D specific version of this airplane, which is out now, actually, by the time that you see this video. So, why did I choose to pick this? Well, a simple answer is the Mustang has always been one of my favorites. It's been out for quite a while, and it didn't feel right to do a review of such an old product. But since Flight1 have decided, you know what, we're going to give you a port of this thing, then I decided, hey, you know what, I'm going to do a review of this thing because I really like it, and I think so will you. Now, jumping straight in, the product itself is available right now from flight1.com. Of course, it's for FSX and for Prepare 3D, version 2 and version 3. So I'm currently running 3.1, but it should be compatible with 3.2 as well, should you already run that. The price is a little bit of a weird thing because originally it was planned to have the thing at $49.95. However, they now lowered it down to $34.95 for all the versions. So you actually get a pretty neat little discount there, which I think is actually pretty cool. Included in the package is the usual stuff, the whole set of manuals, the usual stuff when it comes to that documentation, revision history, and all that kind of stuff. The airplane itself comes with 6 custom paint schemes, including a green primer sort of test flight without paint type thing, basically. And there's also a gigantic number of custom user repaints available across the internet, should you wish to get some more variety going. And looking at the airplane right now in the simulator, as I pan around a little bit, you will see that, yes, it is P3D, and it still looks absolutely fantastic. The model quality of this thing, back when it originally came out a couple of years ago for FSX, the model quality was just outstandingly good. I mean, this thing was way ahead of its time when it came out, and I think it still holds up to that. Actually, I still think this thing looks absolutely fantastic when you look at it. The texturing work, the model quality, the level of detail around the landing gear and the flaps and everything, and the animations and everything is just absolutely superb. Just hands down fantastic work by whoever designed that model. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Same goes for the textures, the texturing work, and all of the little extra kind of animation stuff. As you can see here, we have our engine plugs, we have a wheel chocks, we have a very nice gentleman standing on the wing here, greeting us as we walk the red carpet towards the airplane. Now, and as you can probably see, this is not a very large airplane either. This is 5 passengers and a pilot, so it is essentially a 6-seat aircraft. So I like to call this thing a pocket rocket because it really is. Very fast, very nimble little jet here. And also rather STOL capable, if we're honest. More so than that, it comes with a complete and full 2D panel, for those of you who like that, because I'd like to point out that this is a straight port from the FSX version. So what I mean by that is that no features have been added or removed. So if you remember and liked the old FSX version, this is exactly what you're getting. The only difference is that now it is compatible with Prepare 3D. That's pretty much it. So with that also comes a whole host of 2D panels, as you can see here. Like, there's a lot of 2D panels. Everything that you can possibly want has a 2D panel. Probably the most important ones are the AFCS controller, the autopilot, as well as the keypad down here, the GCU475. But in addition to that, you also have the auxiliary control panel. And what the auxiliary control panel lets you do is change a couple of things. Namely, it lets you open and close all of the doors here on the exterior page. And let's actually start closing stuff up before we hop inside. There we go. Let's close all that. So you can control the animations either using the Shift E and then whatever keys, obviously, from the flight sim, or you can use it with this little manager tool if you want to. Then you can also change the pilot and co-pilot. You can have them inside or you can have them outside, and you have them wear sunglasses or not wear sunglasses, basically. And in addition to that, you also have the Copilot Call-Outs, which, he will read your speeds, your gear up, your positive rate, your blah, 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 that kind of stuff. On the avionics side of things, You can only toggle on and off the GPWS. Fuel and service does pretty much exactly what it says. You can reload the aircraft and you can call a fuel truck, which will come up, and then you can refuel the airplane. And on the quick reference page, you have a certain number of limitations: your weights, your speeds, your autopilot minimum use heights, your takeoff landing operations, all that kind of stuff. The usual limitations and placards and all that kind of stuff. All of that is also found in the manual, but if you need it for a quick reference, then you can use that. Now, let's jump inside, and the first thing that you will notice is, yes, hello, look at that. 3 very large displays, which means it's a G1000. Yes, indeed. So, the G1000 in this airplane, when it came out, was way ahead of its time. It was back then, and in my opinion still is, the most advanced G1000 you can get for flight sim right now, at least for the quote-unquote entertainment section. And if you are familiar with the Flight1 B200 as well as the 182, you will be very familiar with this, because this has the exact same level of detail and the exact same features as those two. And actually, I'm going to compare this a lot with the B200 later on, but more on that in a moment. Looking around the virtual cockpit, the model and texture quality from the outside certainly translates very, very well to the inside. So you have really, really nice, sharp textures. You have really nicely done models for everything. You can, of course, hide your yokes to have access to your bay of switches. There's no overhead panel in this thing, actually, so everything to control the airplane is down here. Every single switch has its own sound, as you can hear. Everything is animated, everything is functional, and everything in here works, even down to the air conditioning system and the pressurization system and all that kind of stuff. At the very top here, you have the standby instruments as well as the test master knob. I don't know if that's the technically correct term for this thing, but that's what I'm going to call it. As well as the digital autopilot, also fully functional except for the VNAV button. But again, more on that in a moment. The G1000, the main difference is that the center screen is obviously a little bit larger than the other two. That is supposed to be, that's the case in the real one as well, simply because you have a little bit more engine instrumentation and stuff that you can display here. And you also have a bit of a strange throttle setup if you look down here, because this airplane is fully FADEC controlled, which means that Cessna went ahead and actually used a similar design or a similar system to an Airbus, where you set cruise power, climb power, and that kind of stuff using D10s and not necessarily by moving the throttle up and down all the time. That also means that this airplane does not have auto throttle or auto thrust, so when you are at cruise level, however high that's going to be, you just put it in cruise and the thing will just zip along and go as fast as it'll go, depending on the weather you have right now. Below that, or actually next to that, you have the flap lever, and next to that you have the trim wheel. And below that you have the keypad for the G1000. Also, that's a separate pop-up as well. Incredibly useful. You're going to use that a lot when you fly this thing. It is designed to be flown on autopilot, so you're going to make use of that a lot. And below that, you also have the rudder trim as well as the aileron trim and position indicators. The rest of the cockpit, as I said, everything is animated, everything is functional. Looking back here, the seats themselves, you have your armrests that you can... Actually, that's the wrong one. No, I want the armrest. Where's the armrest? There's the armrest. There you go. So you have your armrest that you can clap down. You have your seatbelts, car-style seatbelts, so not the traditional seatbelt style that you would expect from an aircraft, but actually car seatbelts. Going back into the cabin, as I said, this is a 6-seat airplane, so there's not a lot of room here. Well, technically 7 if you really want somebody to sit on this thing right here, but going around, you have a lot of eye candy in this airplane. So, starting here on the right, you can open all of this stuff down here, all of these different compartments. And I think actually that this side, in the real airplane, at least on this side, some of those are refrigerated. So, and you will actually know that when you open them, not this one either, but this one, you have a nice little drinks cabinet here. So you have your Baileys, you have your Smirnoff, and you have your 2 bottles of Jameson. Very, very nice. So to keep the beverage situation in check when you fly. And at the very top, you also have the, let's say, cheaper passenger option of Jack Daniel's whiskey, should you prefer that. On the left side, Let's actually swing around. On the left side here, you have another 2. The top one contains a fire extinguisher, very useful in case you need it, and the lower one is also empty, so lots of storage space in here. And as well, you have the door here on the left side. Another little neat little thing over here is this, which is, yes, that's the emergency lavatory, if you will. I wouldn't recommend using that in flight because, well, this is a tiny airplane and you don't want to upset your passengers, so use that with extreme caution, only in absolute emergencies, obviously. Going back further into the cabin, the armrests for those seats obviously movable. The back 2 seats don't have armrests. However, you can fold out this little thing right here, which is, you know, an armrest, basically a pseudo armrest if you really wanted to. Furthermore, what you can do is you have tray tables that you can extend, like so, which also have the stow for taxi and takeoff placards on it, and you have a nice selection of what looks like Flight1 software CD-ROM titles. I don't know why you would carry those in an airplane, but there you go. You can do that. And also another nice little feature back here is that the light switches you can see here, you can all toggle these on and off individually. So you can really create your mood lighting, as it were, if you really wanted to. And also, probably the last awesome feature back here is that all of the blinds you can toggle up and down manually for each separately. So you can create only the left side, only the right side, mixture of the two. Either way, it's a very nice thing. The only sad thing is that P3D doesn't give you the option to have the shadows come down here on these seats as well, but, you know, whatever. Not a big deal. So yeah, great deal of eye candy in this thing, great deal of just very immersive kind of stuff going on back here, personally. I really like it. As I said, the model and the texture quality really translate very well to the back of the airplane, in my opinion, and it's as a whole package, it's really good. So, going back to the office, as it were, let's actually talk you through the startup. Let's start this thing up, let's get airborne, and then talk G1000 in a little bit more detail. So, to start this airplane up, remember I said this is a FADEC controlled airplane, so the startup is about as simple as it gets, really. The only thing you have to do is you turn on the battery, you turn on the engine master of whatever engine you want to use, and then you flip this thing from the idle detent up into the run position, as it were. In the real airplane, you would pinch a trigger on the throttle, lift it over the gate, pull it back to idle, and FADEC will do the rest. In the simulator, you just click it, and it just does everything for you, basically. So, to start up, what we're going to do is we're going to flick on the anti-skid, we're going to flick on the nav and the beacon, as well as our passenger signs. Alright, that's good. We should have enough fuel in it, and yes, we do. Okay, battery goes to on, not emergency. There you go. And you also see the G1000 is lighting up here. The awesomeness that is the G1000. So we have a jet off left, right, and we have oil pressure left, right. So in order to start the engine, we push the right number 2 first. We observe rotation. Put this thing into flight. And watch the magic happen. There we go, that's the number 2 engine catching on. And it looks to be stable. Now we do the same thing with the number 1. So we press the button, we look for rotation, we have rotation, flick the thing into flight, and now I shut down the number 2 engine. I'm an idiot. Oh well. This is live, so no editing, we're gonna run with it. Let's let the number 2 start. There we go. And let's start number 1 start, and let's restart number 2 because I clicked the wrong button there. That's very easy to actually get because these 2 throttle levers are so close together. It's very easy to misclick, so apologies for that. That's just a a demonstration of my incompetence, basically. Okay, reset the generators, put those to on like so. We're gonna do standby power, have the standby instruments go through their self-test routine, right? This. Alright, cool. That's fine as well. And then we turn on the avionics power. Now, the G1000 itself, as you can see, as I said, functionally it's identical to the B200, which means they actually have updated it slightly to be on the same level as the B200. And by that I mean that you now also have for example, the altitude selection arc when you climb and descend. I personally like to call it the VNAV banana, or the vertical banana, so I'm going to call it that. And some, you also have safe taxi in this thing now, which is great, fantastic. I'm a fan of that. So they did actually update the G1000 somewhat, but it's still the same level of functionality that you get in the B200, which is more than enough, especially if you consider the price that is being asked. Now, to finish our pre-flight, pre-start, after-start kind of checklists, the pilot statics are already on. That's all done. Let's actually set up the... And you can even hear, when you listen closely, the fan. Come on. As we turn on the air conditioning system. Now, flying and taxiing, or primarily taxiing in this case, before we actually do that, let's set an altitude here. Let's go up to 35 or something. So the idea is to take off north and then fly along the coast. We're in Norway, so we're just going to take off here from Bergen and then fly up north the coast. Taxiing this airplane. We're not going to use flaps because we're fairly light. We're not going to use flaps that much because we have a pretty long runway. So, performance-wise, this airplane can deal with rather short runways as well as rather long runways. So if you have a pretty long runway, there is a chance that you probably won't be needing flaps anytime soon with this thing. Because it is, as I said, it's quite the pocket rocket. I like that term for it because it is actually, I think it's accurate. Also, since we are in Europe, let me forget that. Let's set our PFD to HPA. There we go. So everything is correct as it should be. Parking brake is released, and then we start taxiing. So, one thing that's actually quite realistic, and that is inherent to the real Mustang as well, is that you need quite a lot of power to actually break loose, as you can see here. So I need to give it quite a bit of throttle for it to actually start moving. But once we are moving, we're gonna roll along just fine on little to no power. So let's go and find the taxiway here. Oh, there it is. And start going out to the runway. Now, the G1000 in this airplane. The G1000 in this airplane, as I said, is the same as the B200, which means that you have all the same features. You can have sits and stars. You can have, if you are in the US, you have your WAAS LPV type of approaches. You have your altitude selection arc. You have your safe taxi and all that kind of good stuff. You do not have airways. You do not have VNAV, and you don't have fuel range rings. But, and I'm not going to try to repeat myself here, especially not if you've watched my B200 reviews, where I went a little bit more into detail about this. Everything that is missing from the G1000 is creature comforts and convenience features, and I don't mind that these things do not exist. I know there are some people in this community that would go absolutely haywire when you tell them that a G1000 doesn't have all the features that they want. The reality of the matter is that this is a $35 product. Keep that in mind. They did not need to make this cheap. They could have sold this for $50, and still it would have been an incredibly good value proposition, at least in my opinion. You have to remember that even though that this is a port, that doesn't mean that there was no work involved in creating this thing. I'm pretty sure they actually spent quite a lot of time getting this thing to function properly within Prepare 3D. So do please remember that before you start buying this and running to the forums and complaining that the G1000 doesn't simulate X or simulate Y. Do consider the cost involved in creating something like this. That's all I'm saying about this. So it's, you know, to get it out of the way and to get it out of my system, because that is always, when talking Flight 1 and talking Flight 1 G1000 products, there's always something that seems to come up, is people that expect more than there is, when in reality that what they're already getting is like the best when it comes to G1000, at least, you know. And I mean, honestly, if you are one of those people that wants 100% accuracy and realism, why are you using P3D anyway? Go fly a real airplane. And if you want a good P3D G1000, then feel free to go to Flight1 Tech and buy the G1000 Student Simulator. You can do that. There you get a full G1000, yeah, but it's also going to cost the price of almost a full G1000. Not that much, but you get the idea, you know, you get what you pay for, and for $35 you really cannot complain at all, because this thing is just fantastic. There's just nothing wrong with this thing at all. I mean, it functions great, it works great, it performs great, it flies great. Yeah, we're gonna back taxi a little bit here. Let me throw in the strobes and get rid of the landing lights. There we go. So, flight dynamics wise, you're gonna see she's gonna be very smooth and very precise, very agile too. So I actually love flying this thing by hand. Now, I know I said earlier it's designed to be flown on autopilot, which it is. I mean, it's a G1000 airplane, so you would think it is, but it actually flies really, really, really nicely by hand as well. Same goes for the landing. So to land this thing, if you have full flaps, you can cross the numbers at 85 knots and this thing will stop on a dime. This thing has incredibly strong brakes. I mean, if I just, yeah, they didn't spare any kind of compromise or anything when they built this airplane. That's absolutely fantastic. And again, realistic. From what I've been told and from what I've seen of the real airplane, they did an incredibly good job, as usual and as you would expect. Going back to the G1000, the other thing that I would have to say about this is that... Actually, let's talk about that after takeoff. Let's take off first. Get this out of the way. So that's a shorty lineup, but hey. Whatever. Alright, so we're gonna do a heading sync real quick, and we're gonna dial in about 2000 vertical speed. Sound good? Yeah, sounds good. Okay. Don't need flaps. Okay, step on the brakes, throttle forward. We have takeoff power, as you can see, D10 set, and off we go. She's throttling back down now to meet the takeoff target of 90.4. That's what's going to happen. That's the fading in action right there. As you can see, acceleration is fairly quick. We're going to hit about 90 to 100, and then we're going to rotate. So there's 90. Quick tug, and we're already airborne. Already in the sky. That's how quick it goes. And we're flying on flat director because we're lazy. And already, as you can see, we're accelerating at quite a rapid pace as we're climbing out of Bergen here. As I said, if you it's Pocket Rocket, man. This thing is designed to fly you from city to city. If you are a businessman or a very rich private person and you want to have your own personal jet, this would be it. This was designed to be, I mean, this is a VLJ. This was designed to be a city hopper, basically, so that's what it excels at. Really nice climb performance, really nice cruise performance. Flight level 410, not even a problem with this thing. It doesn't even break a sweat to do that. So, let's turn on the autopilot and go back to the climb power. There we go, climb setting. Let her accelerate about 200, about 200 knots. Before we press the flight level change button here. Flaps we don't need to raise because we didn't lower them in the first place. Turn off the landing light here. There you go. There you go, 200 knots, flight level change mode is engaged, and let's climb up. So, what I was saying earlier about the G1000. Now, if you remember the original FSX version of the airplane, then you will know that this aircraft has always been rather heavy on performance. This will be rather heavy on performance. This will be probably a little bit heavier on neo frames than the B200. And the reason for that is that this thing came out a long, long time ago. A long time before the B200 was even on the table, I would assume. So that means that, yes, this model is a little bit less optimized than modern stuff. However, also do consider that this is a lot of eye candy back there, as you saw in the cabin. There's a lot of eye candy. So, you have to have a compromise. You can either have a full package that does everything perfectly, like this, or you can have something that compromises in some areas in order to benefit from other areas. It's a difficult balance to strike. Flight1, for the Citation Mustang, they opted to go the full-fledged no compromise for anything route, which is perfectly fine. And I would also like to stress that the performance you can see on my system is on my system. This is my configuration, my computer, my Prepare 3D installation. I do not have the best computer in the world. I freely admit that. I actually have quite the old computer by today's standards. So my performance is probably worse than yours will be. Your mileage will obviously vary. However, do keep in mind that if you fly this thing in very dense scenery areas, then you may see some variance in performance here and there. There's easy ways to prevent that and easy ways to work around that, because what I found personally is that, for me at least, the biggest performance drop happens when there is a lot of obstacles on the ground, and the G1000 has to render all of these obstacle icons, basically. And an easy way to get rid of those is to just declutter the map, or zoom out just far enough so those obstacle icons won't load, and there you have it. Then your performance comes back up. So that's an easy compromise for me to make personally, because I love this thing, and I think that everything else about this airplane is absolutely fantastic. That an issue like that, where the performance might not be 100% awesome, goes down to being a very minor thing. It goes down to being a non-issue almost. Because it doesn't change the enjoyment I get out of it. It doesn't change my ability to fly from A to B with this thing without a problem, because that's what it's all about ultimately. So just keep in mind that, yes, you will get a performance hit because this is a lot older than the B200 and a lot less optimized. Now, then you might be saying, okay, why did Flight1 not optimize this thing? Well, I tell you why, because optimizing this thing and optimizing the exterior model and everything would have taken them months. It would have taken them months of work and probably a lot of money too. And then this wouldn't be a $35 product. This would be back to be a $50 or even a $60 product if they had done that. So again, for the money you're paying, you cannot really complain, because this is a one-to-one straight port from FSX. It's only being made work in P3D. And only with big quotes, because again, I'm sure there's a lot of work that went into this. So, but I'm starting to ramble now, I know, I realize that, but bottom line is that the somewhat low quote-unquote performance gets completely outweighed by everything else that is great about this airplane. So this is just such a minuscule little small thing that, you know, don't think that this is a showstopper, because it absolutely is not. It absolutely isn't. That's just, you know, this is 99% perfect. If those performance issues were gone, this would be 100% perfect. That's the type of deal we're talking. So that's what it is, and that's what I'm staying with. So, conclusion time. What do I think about this thing? Well, it's great. No other point in saying it is fantastic. If you like a small jet, if you are a fan of a small jet, then you will love this thing. 6 custom paint schemes, including the green primer one. A whole host of documentation, and the best G1000 simulation that you can get for any flight simulator right now to date. It's that simple. It is absolutely brilliantly fantastic, so go ahead and buy it right now. $34.95, available right now from Flight1.com. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. My name has been Super Sea Goblin, actually, and I will see you next time.